Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my backyard and welcome back to my series on building my new log hauling trailer. If this is your first time here, there'll be a link up in the cards and down in the description to a playlist that contains all the videos so you can check all those out and catch up to where we are right now. Last time we built this super awesome, super capable log loading arch thingy. This time we're going to take care of all the little details and small stuff and tie downs and all that other tiny little stuff and bring this thing through to complete construction finishing. Finish construction. Whatever. We're gonna finish all the construction stuff before this thing goes for a coating. So I have a laundry list of things to take care of. Let's start with the stabilizing jacks. Let's get those installed. So this time I'm going with a fixed square tube trailer jack for these. On my old trailer, I used these swivel jacks, which they can support the weight just fine, but the problem is that the lifting operations tend to have forces in weird directions, and these things don't like forces in weird directions too much. So with these ones being fixed, they're not going to have any kind of pivot point on there, and being a square tube and being a little beefier than the other ones, these ones should perform a lot better. So these you can get bolted on to the frame. So first off, we need to make some mounting plates for these things. So you know what that means? I'm gonna go grab some steel, cut it to size, and then you and me are gonna have a hole pattern drilling party over in Bridgeport land. So for years, a few of you have been hounding me to try one of these impact tap things. I bought this like 3 years ago and I really haven't used it yet because it kind of scares me a little bit. But 6 of them here with a big impact wrench, and I didn't break it. Seems to do just fine. I think a lot of it has to do with the really long taper on here, so you don't really do a whole lot of grabbing until you really, well, at all. It's very slow cut, so I think that's what helps it. But anyway, it works. I still prefer this because this is actually like a nice zen enjoyment thing for me. I really enjoy hand tapping, but if I need to just get it done, I guess this is pretty quick, and I mean, it still feels a little sketchy to me, but it works just fine. So while those are cooling a bit, let's talk a bit about MIG welding, I guess, as far as my experience so far with it goes, because a lot of people have been asking me about that and how my welds are starting to look. So here's a kind of look at those. They're starting to look a lot more similar to my stick welds. They're looking a lot better than they used to, at least as far as uniformity goes. I still am getting used to manipulation of the gun and holding this thing, because this, compared to holding a stinger with an electrode in it, is much more awkward, at least to me. So being able to get the gun in a position where I actually can see the puddle and travel along in a uniform manner has been it's taken some getting used to. I still prefer stick welding because it is like a no-nonsense process. MIG welding is very finicky. A lot of things can go wrong somewhere in the system. You know, the wire can get stuck, you could have a clogged tip, you could have a clogged cup, you know, grounding issues. There's things that have to be prepped really well. It's just a lot more hassle. So it is faster when it works. With stick welding, if it's not working, you take the electrode out, you say this is garbage, you throw it away, and you put a new one in, and usually that solves all your problems. So this is fun every now and then. Just kind of switch it up, but I still enjoy stick welding a lot more, but I think I'm getting at least a little better. At least I hope so. So now with those jacks out of the way, I think I'm gonna move on to some tie down stuff. So I'm gonna do some stake pockets. So I got this extra piece of 4-inch channel, which is what I use for the light bar in the back there. I'm gonna make a few cuts on this thing to get our stake pockets, which are just gonna be 4-inch long. So it's a 4x4 kind of square, and those can be attached to the sides of the trailer. I like using stake pockets because it does give you a good tie down spot for chains, but it also allows you to, if you really want to, in the future, I've never done this, but you can make sides that then fit into the pockets. So if you really want to put a side up onto the trailer, you could have an enclosed space. So that's a nice little kind of versatility thing with the stake pocket. So I am using this opportunity to practice my vertical MIG welding, and that's how things are looking right now. It's not terrible, a little bit of kind of run to it, but I'm pretty happy with that. The nice thing about this is it's 8 inches of weld, so it's not as big a deal. These be absolutely perfect. They're not going to come off. You can see how things have progressed since the first one I did. Here's that first one, much more goopier and gross looking, and then that one's pretty good. I have to come back in and do the bottom afterwards, but I got a little goofy up towards the top. This one's also kind of not that great looking. This one's probably the most decent. This one's also kind of decent-ish, but yeah, it all takes practice. I have half them on right now, so get the other half on. And there we go, the strong and versatile stake pocket. So I have a few more tie down things that I want to do, as well as a few anchors for the winch. But speaking of the winch, I think what I'm going to do next is get the winch mounted onto the winch plate here. And for those of you who have been saying this whole time, holy tongue weight Batman, well, I've got something to say to you. Hold my beer. So I'm pretty sure this is a 6x12 hole pattern. I'm just going to check real quick while I have it here, just so I don't end up drilling the wrong thing here. That's 12. 6.5 by 12. So, all right, we will get that onto this plate over here. Oh. Well, I guess we will just switch the twist drills. Ugh. That's a new one. I need to get some stubby bits for this thing. All my drills are too long for this now. Anything over 1/4 inch is basically too long. So, hand drill time. So here's my idea for this one. Since there's this like nubbin thing in here, I can't come in with a drill bit and try and drill this out. So I have the plasma torch. I'm going to try and clear out most of the waste, and maybe I can, I don't know, file it or ream it to be a little more perfect looking. This doesn't need to be perfect, this is just a bolt hole, but I want it to at least look nice in case they ever take this winch off. Jeez, of course. It seems like this is the hole it does not want to be, but basically all the way through. So clean it up a little bit, and Hopefully this hole pattern matches correctly. Oh boy. See if I can finish this up with this broken bit before regrinding it. Hey, remember I said I need shorter bits for my mag drill? Boom, got myself a 7/16 stubby now. It doesn't break again. Yeah, let's get a file. Yeah. A little bit of hand tools never hurt anyone. I didn't drill the holes to a big enough diameter. Oh, when will it end? So a lot of people would ask me if I had bought a mag drill when I built the bandsaw mill. And I specifically didn't buy one back then because I had almost no experience drilling holes in metal. And I am very glad that I had that experience because stuff like this doesn't really scare me. Drilling a 1/2-inch hole in a piece of plate with a hand drill is something that is fine with me. It's something I've done many times and it doesn't really bother me, it doesn't scare me. There's a lot of technique and a lot to be known about drilling holes in steel, and I wouldn't have learned anything if I had just, you know, pounded through all those holes with a mag drill in my backyard 3 years ago. That was such an amazing learning experience for me that absolutely worth taking the hard road to learn a heck of a lot. Okay, I'm kind of sick of working. Let's have a little bit of fun. Since we have the winch on here, we have the stabilizers there. The log lift should be functional at this point, so maybe we can find something heavy to pick up and see how well it works. Let's see what I got. Ah, baby skid steer. That should work. So I'm gonna go grab my my anchor, get that hooked up to the trailer, and then we'll get this skid steer rigged up for a little bit of a lift. All right, let's get this thing in position. All right, let's do it. Yeah, I think this'll probably pick up some logs. Let's bring it back down to earth, shall we? Now for some additional tie-down options, I have some D-rings which I'm going to install. These are 1-inch D-rings and they are absolutely overkill and ridiculous for this project. But a awesome local viewer sent me a message and was like, I have some extra D-rings. I bought some extras that you can have if you want them. I'm like, well, sure, I'm gonna put some D-rings on here anyway. Bring them over, let's take a look. I should have known better. So thanks, Al, for the D-rings. This is gonna tie in really nicely to the theme of this trailer, which is just everything being absolutely ridiculous. So just for sake of comparison, this is a 1-inch D-ring. This is a 1/2-inch, which is probably what you would see on something like this, maybe a 5/8-inch D-ring, something along those lines. This one is rated at 4,100 pounds. This is rated at 47,000 pounds. So this is gonna be mostly for looks and less about actually needing that actual rating. Now, one of the things that I didn't really like about my old trailer was the fact that you had no tie-down options within the fender area. So what I want to do is put a D-ring inside the fender here, which would give me at least somewhere to tie down here in the middle if I need it. I'm just going to do one. I was thinking maybe doing two, but I think one's going to be fine. The other great advantage of having an anchor point here is that if I want to use a snatch block over here to pull a log this way, I have somewhere to anchor that here in the middle. And of course I have the stake pockets on either side of the fender, so that should be fine and good. So I'm thinking I'll put a D-ring right here, right where the seam is. There happens to be a piece of C-channel under there, so I can tie into the outside of the frame as well as the C-channel. So this plate will get put in there, and then the actual D-ring can go on top of there. So I've already gone ahead and prepped all of these guys so they're ready to go for welding. You can see I knocked back those corners there so we can get a nice good weld connection to the actual, what do we call these, retainer clip things. And yeah. So what I'll do is I'll trace around that backing plate, I'll cut away the decking, I'll weld that backing plate down, and then I can weld the actual D-ring to that. Now, pro tip with this, make sure you remember to actually install the D-ring inside of the retainer before you weld the retainer in place, because yeah, you're not going to be getting that D-ring in there if the retainer is welded without the ring already in there. Haven't done that yet, but I can see myself making that mistake. And I'm also going to throw a couple of D-rings towards the front of the trailer between those two forward stake pockets. That should give me some more options for tie downs, or I don't know what, places to hook a snatch block, things like that. This should be kind of fun because we're going to do some out of position welding, some nice overhead welds, some nice vertical welds. So that should be kind of fun. A little bit different than everything else. Not going to be nearly as pretty, I'm sure. So that should do it for the ridiculous D-rings on here. These are pretty ridiculous. So I was going to MIG weld the seams of the deck closed, but my gas bottle is empty, and I'm not going anywhere for the next couple of weeks. So I guess we're going to go for a little bit of flux-coated thick wire welding. Let's go ahead and stick weld all the seams up. The seams are kind of full of junk and they're a little bit dirty right now, so I'll go through the wire wheel and then probably give it a quick pass with the cutoff wheel to get some bare metal exposed, and just gonna go through and zip up all of these seams. I have plenty more stick electrodes to go, or at least I have on hand, so should have no problem welding all this together. You know, the good practice. I was kind of hoping to MIG weld it because that would give me, this is a lot of seam space. It's like, what, almost 20 feet of seams to practice on? Nope, maybe more than that. 27 feet of seams. So that would have been kind of nice to practice my MIG welding skills with, but yeah, I got some more stick practice out of it, I guess. So that takes care of all of the deck welding. I think I got my stick welding fixed for a while. That was a lot of rods. They're everywhere. Now, I did go over a lot of the MIG welds again with a stick just because it just looks better and sort of blends things out better with the stick bead than the MIG bead. So this is a MIG bead. That's a MIG bead over here. Just I'm not that good at it, so I can't get things to flow together as well. But I really want for the decking to be kind of rounded over and flowing into the frame more like this, so I don't have as much cleanup to do, but that's all right. I'm just not that good at it, or as good at it, I guess, but the stick beads do look a lot nicer and won't need as much cleanup now because that's what I'm doing next. So I got a whole pack of flap wheels here. I got the cup wheel as well, so we'll go over the deck with the cup wheel, get all the slag knocked off, clean it off a little bit, since you know, it's got that rust patina on there, and I know so many of you hate patina, so at least seeing it cleaned up should make you a little bit happier. And then I'm gonna go around and start cleaning up all the welds on the deck, all the ones on the surface that get flushed up, and then I'll just kind of blend all the other ones along the outside perimeter, get that all looking nice and clean looking. And then from there I'm gonna keep grinding. I have a lot of finish prep, I guess we'll call it, to do. So I have a lot of welds that need to be cleaned up and just finessed to look a little bit nicer, like up here on the safety rail thing. I'll also do the arch as well while I'm at it, get that thing all cleaned up, all of those welds looking a little bit better, and just kind of break some edges and things. Just some finesse stuff at this point, so these things are ready to go when it comes time for coating. or surfacing or whatever. So 3 flap wheels later, and the trailer is all cleaned up and ready to go. Now getting down to some of the last details here, I'll take care of a few more holes up here for the future wiring for the trailer. And yes, a lot of these things would have been a lot easier to do before this was all assembled, but my brain does not work that way. And well, what fun is it, you know, not seeing me struggle? So let's take a look here and see what kind of holes we're gonna need. So I'm gonna place all my wiring junction stuff underneath the winch plate here. So you have the main junction box that'll come in and get bolted under here somewhere, and then the breakaway controller will also come in under here and get bolted to the other side that the jack is attached to. So on this tube here. So those need to get some bolt holes drilled. Those would be pretty easy. I'm more worried about the big stuff. So the actual wiring harness for the trailer is going to need to come into that junction box. So I think I'm gonna put a hole right in here. It's gonna allow this wire to pass through and get into that junction box. It's also gonna allow me a place to put the breakaway little box thing. So that's gonna allow me to either mount this guy here or down in here and have the wires actually be able to pass through here and go into the breakaway box, which will just be on the other side of this tube. So I need a hole right here for that. And then I'm also going to need a hole into this tube here, which is going to allow the wiring to go out into the trailer. So I have these larger grommets, so I'll make some holes for these. That's going to be one hole in the front face of the winch mount, and then one hole up inside to get into the tongue tube, which will allow the wiring to go that way. So this thing is going to get picked up a little bit. I'm going to get under there with a drill and get these holes drilled out, and that'll be one more thing off of the prep work checklist. So while I'm taking care of drilling holes, I want to do one little modification to the arch, and that is to drill a pinhole up here towards the top of the upright. That's going to allow the arch to be fixed in position off the back of the trailer, so it does not move as the winch is pulling on it. That can be useful for, you know, pulling things straight up into the air, or any circumstance where you don't want the arch to actually pivot, you just want it to lift. So a couple of holes up here will allow that to happen. A lot of people have been asking for a solution for that, so this is going to be my super simple, easy solution for fixing the arch in place. So now for the last thing, it's something I've been kind of bouncing back and forth with in my mind, and that is an anchor point up here for the winch if I want to loop back the cable. So on my current trailer, I have some shackle mounts or lugs or pad eyes or whatever anybody wants to call these things. They're a block with a hole in it for a shackle. So I call it a shackle mount. That's what I like. Anyway, I was thinking, okay, well, I have an extra D-ring, so I can put another D-ring up here and have that as an anchor point for the winch cable. But I prefer these shackle mounts because they just take up less space. And if I actually want to hook something else to here, like if I wanted to hook a snatch block to a D-ring, I would need a shackle anyway to connect these two together. So the shackle mount just takes one of the things out of the equation. So I am going to weld on some shackle mounts up here similar to the old trailer. I made these mounts like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Whenever I did that, there's a video for that. I will leave you a link to that. I made 6 of them, and I only used 4 of them on the old trailer, so I have 2 left, which is exactly what I need for this operation. So very similar to the D-rings on the deck, I have a backing plate, which will go in here. I'll cut back the deck here and get this thing welded directly to the frame. Here's my cardboard template as I was playing around with the shape for this thing. So this is going to be very much the same thing as doing the D-rings. I'm going to cut back the deck, weld this plate in place, and then lay down a bunch of beads to get these blocks, these shackle mounts, welded to these plates. This is kind of a sad moment because these are some of the last beads, or actually the last beads of this entire trailer project. So my welding party is coming to an end. It's been fun though. I can't wait for the wrap-up video where I show you how many welding rods I've gone through. So this is kind of weird to say for me. I'm done. It's very weird to be at this point where I don't really have any more, actually I have no welding left to do. I might have a few holes to drill once we do the final assembly, but other than that, this thing is ready to go for coating. That's it for this one. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments on the trailer build or anything back in the shop, please feel free to leave me a comment. I was always to be happy to answer any questions you might have. Until next time, happy woodworking.